Time to shine today, podcast varsity squad. This is Scott Ferguson, and I have been waiting bated breath. Got my boy from Chicago here, my good friend JD Gershbein. He is a personal brand strategist, business psychologist, speaker, facilitator, media producer, and broadcaster. He's one of the world's first independent LinkedIn consultants and is widely regarded as a thought leader in the areas of personal branding, social networking, online communication, applied improvisation, and social entrepreneurship. So he's all about aiming high and brand yourself accordingly. And I'm so stoked to bring this. And you're going to want to break out your notebook, sit back and relax, because here is my really good friend, JD Gershbein. And JD, please come on, introduce yourself to the Time to Shine Today podcast varsity squad. But first, what's your favorite color and why?
Blue.
Blue, why is that?
I'm all about the blue, man. Anything important in my life is revolved around blue.
I love it. I'm wearing
it. It's very easy on my rods and cones.
I love it. It's in your color wheel, you handsome devil.
Absolutely.
Love it. I love it. So let's get into a little bit about JD. Again, we met in March. And
Yes.
for scheduling, we finally get together here in July. This will probably be August if you're listening to it right now, squad. But let's get to the origins of JD. I know that you were in kind of another world and I still call it shift. A lot of people call it pivot. But maybe we'll call it shivit. There you go.
There you go.
Give me shivit right over. But let's get in a little bit of the history of JD.
You know, Fergie, I'm kind of in this phase of continuous reinvention. I think I'm reinventing myself on the hour at this point. There's nothing like a global pandemic to really drive home the frailty of human life and really illuminate who we are as human beings. And as we're taping this, we are inching toward a post-COVID world. The vaccines are out there. People are getting immunized. People have kind of returned to society. Everything's open again. And now is the time to really call back on what we've went through the past 17 months leading up to our taping here today, where we were, say, pre-pandemic, and things have changed. Things have changed internally for me, externally in the way that I approach my business, and clearly meeting superb people like yourself, which may not have happened.
Wouldn't have happened, brother.
It
might have.
Think of, and that's really where I'd like to kind of maybe go with this is what opportunities have happened and how has my story been kind of reshaped since the pandemic?
Yeah, let's go there. Let's go with the reshaping of it.
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of has that right now. And we've come through this period of incredible self-assessment. And I've been doing the LinkedIn work now since 2006. Mm-hmm. And what have I learned? Well, I've certainly learned a lot about the platform from a technology standpoint. It's a disruptive phenomenon that has really reshaped the face of business and retooled the business landscape, as it were. But as I've overlaid my personality on it, I've noticed around the social science that it's just people talking to people and people trying to talk to people and people trying to engage in business conversations. And we humans tend to overthink everything, Fergie. So what I've tried to do is really install myself as a thought partner to people who really want to leverage LinkedIn to its fullest potential and not get so strategically and tactically burdened by the site, but just kind of put your eyes in soft focus, let things kind of happen, and really allow the game to come to you. That's the essence of my work right now.
And I love what you're doing because he takes from me and him are cut from the same cloth of giving till it hurts so good. Because if you go to his website from his blogs to even his about page, it's all about how much he gives. But JD, I have to ask you something. Like when you are talking about going through consistent reinvention, does that stifle any consistency along the way?
I don't think so, because I'm the same guy. Okay. I'm under the same personal brand umbrella. I would never do anything that's off brand. I would never recommend my clients.
I was hoping you're going to say that, man.
Go off brand. It's got to feel, we use the word coming on the air called authenticity. Yeah. It's authenticity is the word right now. It's in vogue. Yes. And I think we've become very snobby audiences, and we can spot someone who's operating out of authenticity and someone who's an imposter at this point.
You know, you're right, because you're put under such a microscope with social and everything else that's going on out there.
Yeah.
And I, that's the thing where I don't have a huge social presence. All of my coaches want me to, but I'm like, I built an email list, which my squad knows here, of over 115,000 emails, and I get like a 27% open. I like building the platform on people that have that are looking to level up into into meet people like yourself and then take it to the next level, where it just seems like there's a lot of superficial stuff that's going on out there. Am I echoing kind of what you said earlier?
You absolutely are. And I think that's another reason that we became BFFs so quickly, is because up level was my word for 2021.
That's right.
and after a miserable 2020, where we were given the best marketing tagline in the history of marketing taglines. I mean, marketing 2020 vision. And 2020 turned out to be a real bust. But at the same time, the blessing within the curse was that we were able to take this step back. Everybody was given this incredible bubble of time to reevaluate, recalibrate, and retool. And now we're coming out into a post-pandemic world, ideally stronger, better versions of ourselves, better versions of the best version, in other words. And now how can we collaborate? How can we co-create? And how can we build something for the greater good?
Love it. So let's talk then about that fork in the road moment, if you want to call it that, when you kind of like in 2006, I look back, I got my LinkedIn profile in 2006, right? Like that's when I didn't even know, just a friend said, you need to join this. And I'm like, what? It was cool. It was social time, Facebook was barely coming out if it even was out. What was that fork in the road moment that said, listen, you're going to kind of leave the traditional marketing practice and kind of move into the LinkedIn? What was the trigger? Because like I just said, dude, I didn't know what was going on with it. You must have saw something that everybody else did. And what took you down that road?
Well, it's what Dr. Rob Bell would call a hinge moment. And that was one of my hinge moments. I don't know. I'm just hardwired in that way. Something about LinkedIn appealed to me instantly. I felt this could be fantastic. And the first incarnation of my LinkedIn profile, which was crude by today's standards. I mean, I didn't just populate the page with content that was elsewhere. I really took the time and built on this fresh.
Yes, you did.
It was my canvas. And I felt if I could lead people here and they could learn a few things about me that they couldn't learn anywhere else out there on the web, that maybe it would lead to better conversations and people would be preconditioned to learn more about me and motivated to investigate me further. And I haven't been visionary with all that much in my life, Fergie, but I was with this. And I made the decision literally the moment I created my LinkedIn account that I was going to show people possibilities here. And I started meeting them at networking events, going into coffee houses. We all had our laptops up and trying to figure this thing out. And I quickly branded as a go-to resource in this area.
Wow.
And truthfully, I just rode the wave.
I hate to disagree, but you are visionary, man. You saw something where you could serve people, meeting them in coffee houses, going out and giving of your time. It's not like they're paying you to meet. You're like opening up the laptops and getting after it and helping people. And then and you were open to that reciprocation, that stuff would come to you in paid events and other maybe monetary gain or not even monetary, right?
Well, nobody really understood LinkedIn.
Right. Nobody did.
And it still remains very enigmatic, and it's getting tougher to teach. The site has just become so much more complex. And now there's a feeding frenzy on it with so many folks realizing the urgency of their content in terms of building their brand and acquiring clients, advancing their careers, et cetera. So for me, back in the day, in retrospect, I hung out the shingle. I didn't know where it was leading, but I knew that if I gave it my all, it would be great. And I have never wavered from who I am and my guiding principles in moving a consultancy forward that is designed to help people not just use a website. I don't teach people how to use the website, but I show them where the key values are, how it's applicable to them, how it aligns with their vision of themselves, and then give them the autonomy to move forward.
Love it. And you're doing all of that too, JD. So what do you think makes somebody a great brand magnet?
You know, it's interesting. Personal branding has really stolen the conversation out there because now as we've been thrust into the virtual world, Fergie, everybody's kind of thinking about their brands. It was one of those terms that just didn't get a lot of play back, say, when I started doing the work. But I'd say the turning point for personal branding and for people really reconciling their value as brands came around 2011, when LinkedIn had just come through its greatest period of growth in their history. And they had crossed the 100 million mark. And when you think about it, 100 million users.
Right.
Now it's upwards of 700 million users. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's active on it.
Right.
But what it does mean is that there are certain people who decided that they weren't going to just say they wanted to stand out, but they were going to do the steps necessary to stand out. So when you see people really working on themselves and putting themselves out there in a way where they can be taken at face value, and what they bring to the table is so clearly messaged, you recognize them as brands.
Yes.
And sadly, not everybody builds a brand.
Yeah.
And the misnomer is that people in my trade will build the brand for them. I don't build the brand for anybody.
No, they do.
I work on my own, but there's so much of what we call personal branding that lies outside our control. So we just have to hope and play on the notion that we will be received well, that people will be open to hearing from us, that they will be receptive to looking at our emails, our content, and maybe become brand ambassadors for us and share that content.
I love that. That's fantastic. So what if you're bringing somebody in to help them brand accordingly, what kind of secret sauce do you have, if you don't mind sharing, to help them find their blind spots?
I look at what I call the dominant aspect of value. That's my term. I've peed on it through the years to mark territory, because I really feel that there's so much that lies beneath the waterline. If you look at iceberg theory, which I love to explain branding in terms of the iceberg. And the great writer Ernest Hemingway said that great writing should be done with an economy of words, and that the writer should get his or her message across in the least amount of words possible. Yes. So what I try to do is really help my clients, students, and audiences simplify their message, gain clarity on what it is they truly do. Now, there are a lot of folks who use that language in their practices, but when you're talking about consolidating and condensing everything you do and everything you are for clients in terms of a singular profile, that's work. And you've got to do the deep dredging and really put forth the effort to show folks what it is you truly accomplish.
Love it.
And unfortunately, most folks can't, and default to an overt sales pitch,
where it's a lot of me in it.
It's all me. It's about how cool they are and nothing about client pain.
Love that you said that and that we agree on that. So when you're starting to work with somebody that wants to level up, brand accordingly, do it in a brief way as possible, because the fewest words, I believe in Ben Franklin said that as well.
Yes. Well, I'm working with a lot of folks who have very impressive histories, and I'm sure many folks in your squad feel that they're very, they have multiple businesses, multiple brand extensions. I call it versatility syndrome, where they want to do so many things, or they cast as wide a net as possible, as opposed to being a specialist. So the key is giving each of these important professional elements its own emphasis and incorporating them into the profile. So I've really looked at kind of the art and the science of LinkedIn profile writing as not something that I just fulfill an order, but to really work with someone to chisel out that message and again, carve out that best mental version of themselves.
Absolutely. So when you're starting to work with somebody that wants to level up their brand, is there any good question that you wish they would ask you but never do?
That I wish that they would ask me,
but never do?
JD, in a perfect world, what could happen?
Sure.
What could happen if I listen to you? What could happen if I go through your process? What could happen if I start doing what you ask me to do? Because unfortunately, there's a jump off / leave off point where clients have taken the knowledge, they've built a few insights, and they go out and they default to some of the bad habits that they had previously.
Right.
And I'm here to say that LinkedIn is a meritocracy, folks, / squad. LinkedIn is a meritocracy.
Sure.
The achievement comes to people who work it. It is hard work, and it does force us to reconcile how we present in the online world.
Right.
But at the same time, when you understand what works and what doesn't, you will be in better conversations. You will be in more opportunities to sell yourself, your product, your services, your skill sets, your company, and you'll be able to drive your niche.
Love it. So then what keeps JD up at night?
What keeps me up at night?
Yeah.
Just some of the problems that are outside of business at this point. I don't worry about too much in my practice. I'm in a good place professionally. I truly feel that way, Fergie. But obviously there are people who are not. And I guess
you want to help them.
I want to help them. I'm the one guy trying to change the world thing. But at the same time, I understand that things out there I can't control. And my gosh, all of the social injustice out there and the inequities of human life, and it weighs on us.
Sure.
It weighs on us all, but I wake up with enthusiasm every morning and just so glad and delighted to be in a situation to meet people like you.
My man. So then what do you think people misunderstand the most about JD?
What do they misunderstand about me? I'm not sure that they would understand what it is I'm trying to accomplish for them.
Okay.
And obviously everybody's in business and everybody is selling you a product or service or a worldview at every turn and imposing their will on the system. And I'm really not like that. I'm not a hardballer when it comes to sales. I probably have left more business on the table because of that.
Sure.
But I vet my clients very seriously. I want them to know that I operate in their best interests. And I think that's what I would want them to know about me. I'm not an order taker.
Right.
I'm not an assembly line. I don't outsource the outsourcing. They engage with me, they get me, and I'm all in.
And they get individual attention versus cookie cutter stuff. And I love that you brought that up. So have you seen the movie Back to the Future?
I certainly have.
Okay. We're going to go the opposite way. We're going, we don't need roads. In 5 years forward, where do you see JD?
I'm doing live shows.
Okay.
I'm doing live shows that are live streamed and taped in front of a live audience. I'm best perceived as a live act. And I've got my speaking business has been resurrected in an industry that is slowly but surely coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out there just producing media, writing books, shaking hands or bumping elbows with just talented people, insightful people that I can learn from.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I feel I'm just kind of revving up. I'm in Act 3 right now. Just curtain's just gone up on Act 3, and I'm ready to intermingle with my audience.
Yes, it feels so good again. I've been wheels up last 3 weekends, Austin, Nashville. Like tonight, I'm going to Hartford, Connecticut to speak, and it just feels so good. Get up there, rock the stage, and press some flesh and meet people again. I mean, can't even explain. So. Okay, how do you want your dash remembered? That little line in between your incarnation date and your expiration date. How do you want people to remember your dash on your tombstone?
Boy, you mean the epitaph?
It doesn't have to be the epitaph. There's a lot of life lived, especially with you in that dash between your life date and death date. How do you want that dash remembered?
Well, it's interesting because I've toyed around with the idea of giving myself that kind of personal epitaph, and there are certain things that come to mind about what I try to do and that fine line between the effort I put in and the accomplishment and the output.
Sure.
So I would like to be known as a guy who did his best to stay relevant, age gracefully.
Yes, you do.
And achieve inner peace.
Sorry, I'm writing that down because I'm going to live that. Best to stay relevant, age gracefully, and achieve inner peace.
Yes, it's actually the tagline on my personal website.
I believe
I'm a guy doing his best to stay relevant, age gracefully, and achieve inner peace.
That's awesome, man.
And in between all of those operations, help as many folks as I can.
Yes.
Have as much fun as possible.
Yes.
I mean, come on, squad. Let's have fun.
Yes. That's what we do here, man. We have a blast.
If you ain't having fun, it ain't working.
Yeah, dude. We talk about overlapping happiness all the time,
Hmm.
because if you're like, oh man, I'm going to visit Fergie in South Florida, we're gonna have a great time for 3 or 4 days. We're gonna rock stages, press some flesh, make a little money in the process, go eat some nice South Florida food. But guess what? That time ends. You're gonna be going back to Chicago. Nothing wrong with that. But if you find something else within the interim, that's what we say, we overlap our happiness. We're always grateful. That's why everybody that I coach must have a gratitude journal. And I don't want them to write it out. I give them 12 items a day that you're grateful for. Figure it out. I don't care if it's that your right finger can move correctly. Write it out. And it just, since my coach made me start doing that in 1999, I have journals that go back to 99, dude. So it's amazing. And that's where I see you hitting those big three. Age gracefully, inner peace, and staying relevant. You're going to crush it. So let's go back to your 22-year-old. Let's get back to that DeLorean with Marty. Let's go back to 22-year-old JD. What kind of knowledge nuggets, that's what we call him here at Time to Shine today, are you dropping on that JD to maybe help him shorten the learning curve, level up, and blast through?
Boy, that whole do-over question about going back and speaking to your younger self, and obviously I would impose certain financial lessons on my younger self.
Me too, brother.
That's a separate podcast. That's a separate podcast.
Yes.
I would say, one of the words that's out there is that I have always loved is open-mindedness. And I would tell my younger self to be as open-minded as possible. And I've never really been anything but. I've always welcomed new things that I've been exposed to. I'm very responsive. I'm very analytical. I look at things, I study them. I'm this blend of art and science. So I'm always looking for the aesthetic qualities, but at the same time, the scientific explanation behind pretty much everything. So I would just say keep on that trail, because that's what led me to make the decision to be where I'm at right now. I never thought learning a website would be my ticket to see the world.
Right.
So I have the gratitude piece. There's no shortage of gratitude in my life. But the 22-year-old JD who is out there just playing a mean blues piano, going to Chicago Cubs games, going to every rock concert I could go to, having a blast, getting a great suntan in the summer, meeting girls, that JD, it's kind of given way to a more mature version, as you would hope and expect. And now I think what would 72-year-old JD say to 63-year-old JD? So that kind of thing. So
love it.
As we tape here, I fall back on that introspection, and I think of how I was feeling and reacting to things in my younger days. And I am the sum total of all the choices I've made.
We all are. That's amazing. So then let's go this way. Let's take out any electronics, including the phone, computer, tablet, anything electrical. What are 3 things that JD can't live without?
My piano.
Okay.
My family. Although I should put my family first, right?
Sure.
I think that's kind of like the given.
That's a given one.
Arching can't live without. But in terms of things that kind of keep us on this time continuum, because right now you pull electronics out of the equation, unless you're out there and you're living in solitude. We have our books.
Yeah.
Obviously my books, and
sure.
I would say my appetite for new knowledge.
Love it.
Whether that comes from books, whether that's knowledge, I'm a lifelong learner.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Right there with you. So then what is your definition of a life well lived?
My definition of a life well lived, I would say, is the turnout at my funeral.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I do hear you there. So, squad, we're going to take JD through our leveling up lightning round, which I know is just going to absolutely rock it, just as soon as we get back from thanking our sponsors and affiliates. Hey, Time to Shine today, Podcast Varsity Squad. We are back with my good friend JD Gershbein, who wants you to aim high and brand accordingly. And JD, we're going to take you through our leveling up lightning round. You and I could talk literally an hour on each one of these questions, but you got 5 seconds with 0 explanations. You ready to level up?
I am ready to level up.
Let's do this. All right. What is the best leveling up advice JD's ever received?
Listen, think, act.
Love it. Share one of your personal habits that contributes to your success.
Running.
Running. Love it. Other than your website, which is owlishcommunications.com, and of course, timetoshinetoday.com, my shameless plug. What website do you like to go to level up?
LinkedIn.
Here we go.
Is that a trick question?
Yeah, that's why I leaned in. Okay, so you see me walking down the street, man, Fergie's in his doldrums a little bit, man. What book are you handing me?
I am handing you Anatomy of an Illness as Perceived by the Patient by Norman Cousins.
I have to put that in our show notes, squad. What's your most commonly used emoji?
The little dude with the dark shades, sunglasses.
I love it. Chess or checkers?
Chess.
Love it. If you could stay one age for the rest of your life, and please just don't lie to me on this. I'm coming up on 50, and I know what age I'd want to be. If you could stay one age physically for the rest of your life, keep all the knowledge you've gained and continue to garner knowledge, what age physically would you stay for the rest of your life?
35.
Thank you for putting a 3 in there. I say 32. Thank you for being honest with that, brother. Favorite charity and organization you like to give your time or money to?
So many. I have a couple that involve kids.
Okay, very cool. What we'll have you do is send them over to us, and we'll put them in our show notes.
Special Kids Network. Special
Perfect.
Kids Network, which is founded by my good friend Chad Coe here in the Chicago area.
Beautiful. Last question. You can elaborate a little bit on this one, but what is the best decade of music? 60s, 70s, 80s, or 90s?
1970s.
70s. All right. Give me some bands you like.
Well, I was on the radio station at my high school, so you name any band that put out work in the 70s, and I'm pretty much on it. But then I would also say I didn't appreciate music to the extent I do now from the 1960s and before that. And the older I get, the more interested I am in the people who did it first. In the 1970s, the it bands for me were, the Beatles, of course, Elton John, the Rolling Stones,
Eagles,
anybody from the British Invasion, Eagles, Doobie Brothers.
70s were awesome.
Anybody in that pocket.
Yeah, 70s were awesome. So how can we find you, JD?
I'm pretty easy. It should surprise absolutely no one that I'm discoverable and detectable on LinkedIn. JD, no period, JD Gershbein. I've got a couple of websites out there. My company is Owlish Communications, like the owl, Owlish Communications. And you pop me into the Google search engine and
you find you.
You'll get to me.
Absolutely, you'll get to.
Or they could ask you.
What's that?
They could find me through you.
Absolutely.
I will be promoting my appearance on your podcast very aggressively.
Yay! I love that. I love it. So I was curious, did you ever perform at Second City?
I have.
Oh, really?
I've studied improv and sketch comedy aggressively since 2017.
Okay.
Prior to that, I did take some classes in the 1980s, and I've worked with actually a coach at Second City. I initially went back there to up level my stagecraft.
Okay.
And then fell into some long form improv classes. I'm not auditioning for for Saturday Night Live.
Right.
I look at applied improv as a skill, and I wanted to up level that skill or upskill if I wanted.
Thursday nights, man, I'm in improv class. I actually have a competition where they have a boxing ring this weekend.
Yes.
And we're having funny. They're fun. I'm no longer the weakest link because new people are coming in. I'm getting better, and I'm getting trained by some studs here in improv, which is just poured over into my personal life, into my business world. And I know that you can attest to this, how just easier it is to think on your feet in a rational, clear manner.
Yes.
And think and respond and not react.
Yes.
Because you're thinking about what, and I love it.
Yes,
I love it.
And it gives us the ability to really advance conversations.
Right.
When we think they're bottoming out or they've hit the wall.
Right.
When you're present in the moment and you can use the techniques of applied improvisation, you can continue the conversation. And that's
Love
an
it.
important skill in business today. I did a show back in May of 2019, sold out, if I may add. And
Yeah.
it was a business themed show, and it was the precursor to a live show that I'm developing, which I hope to take across the globe.
I love it. You will. You will. And JD, do me a huge favor and leave us with one last knowledge nugget you want us to take with us, internalize, and take action on.
Well, if I may, I'd like to offer my favorite quote from one of my favorite films, because it applies to pretty much everything in life. Are you ready?
Let's hear it.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Jaws. It's funny. I pull from movies all the time. Like I pull from Shawshank Redemption.
Great
Get
movie.
Busy Living, Get Busy Dying. And then there's a movie that really no one's heard of unless you're a goofball like me. It's called Van Wilder. And, it was Ryan Reynolds before he was Ryan Reynolds. And he said in there, he said, don't take life too seriously or never make it out alive. And I live by that since 2000. That movie came out in 2000. That's literally on my wall. If everyone asks me a quote, I always say that and then do it for the intention, not the attention. Those are my two that I live by, man.
I've got one more for you. And
Yeah.
then I think that's a great way for you to go into your outro. And that would be from Godfather 2, Michael Corleone, who says, he's questioning, how he is perceived and how he interacts with the world. And he says, one thing he learned from his father, the Don, was to think like the people around you think.
Yes.
And on that basis, anything's possible.
Love it. It's true. Vito nailed it on that too. Love it. And squad, you just got a free masterclass with my good friend, JD Gershbein. You want to level up your LinkedIn, then you must let me make a warm introduction to JD. He brought up people talking to people, and that's what we really miss, and now that we're starting to get back to it, we're overthinking a lot. And if you're really looking for that thought partner, let me put you in touch with JD. Keep a lookout for that hinge moment, that moment that's going to make a difference. That was JD's fork in the road moment where he's leveling up on LinkedIn and helping others level it up on LinkedIn. So look out for that hinge moment. Brand people that become brand magnets, they look and do the steps necessary to stand apart from others from a point of service. They're not doing it for the me, I. They're doing it to help others. And that's where people will be successful as a brand magnet. And he also dog-peed on the dominant aspect of value. Believes in the iceberg theory, where there's a lot more down below than there is above. And get your message across as brief as possible. Don't write long, because people will get lost. And because you're not making, especially if you're not making it about them, they will stop reading it. So keep it brief. He wants to stay relevant, age gracefully, and achieve inner peace. And he's well on his way to doing it. He's already doing it. He's my guy here. And then, ask your coach no matter if you're looking to get branded or if you are looking to level up your LinkedIn or whatnot, that in a perfect world, what could happen if I do what you ask of me? And also, squad, if you're going to hire a friggin' coach, stick to the protocol they're giving you. Okay, I cannot stand that. That's one thing that I do with my 3 coaches is I stay with their protocol and I give it 90 days. And if it's not working, then we reassess. But I guarantee if they're good, they're going to put you in the right direction. He wants you to keep your mind open to new ideas. Always be a sponge, always move forward. And like my good friend Leah Woodford would say, get your asking gear. And if you're really passionate about something, you don't know how to do it, ask the people. You're going to need a bigger boat. And hang out with my boy JD, that's exactly what you're going to need. And lastly, listen, think, and act. Do it in those orders, that order. Don't overanalyze. Make sure you take action. And that's what my good friend JD does. He's humble yet hungry. He levels up his health. He levels up his wealth. He's part of our varsity squad now. You've earned your varsity letter. JD, thanks so much for coming on, my friend.
Well, when I knew it was time to shine, I knew it was time to shine. Thank you for having me, Fergie. It's been a pleasure.
You bet, brother. Love your guts. I'll talk soon.